Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are going to be doing the last video on Chris's pets. And now I know Chris will probably get more pets in the future, probably more stray cats, but for right now, this is the end of all the pet stuff. And I chose to end it off on Patti, the least tragic of all the pets' tales. Now, Patti Chandler was Chris's dog, and before we start this, I'm going to read a quote from Chris himself. My Patti will, the spirit of Patti will have his soul for dinner tonight. She will be haunting your nightmares, Mr. Leary. That is Chris telling someone that his dog is going to haunt them. And Chris has also said that the ghosts of his past self and his father would haunt people. So Chris is very respectful to deceased family members in his life. Patti Chandler was born on March 17, 1988, and died on June 27, 2006. Was Chris's childhood dog, a Beagle Spitz mix, who was put down in 2006. As can be seen in Patti's eulogy below, Chris reports that her birthday was the 17th of March, 1988. It should be noted, though, that in an email sent to the Wallflower on February 28, 2010, he wrote that he learned what Patti's birthday was after a veterinarian determined it for him. It is very doubtful that a veterinarian can determine the precise date in which a dog was born, making the birth date, Chris reports, as dubious, if it's even roughly accurate though. Patti lived a very long life for a dog, and yes, that is pretty old. Age 18, she was 18 years old, and that is a photo of her right there. As Chris tells in Patti's eulogy, he picked her up as a pup from a litter at the house of his Aunt Karina, and she is also deceased now. On September 1992, Chris and Bob moved from Ruckersville to Chesterfield County. This led to him being separated from Patti for 3 years, as Barbara did not accompany her husband and son. I wonder why. Probably due to employment, but rather stayed in Chandler's old home along with the pets. Only in early 1996, which is my birth year by the way, did Barbara move to Chesterfield along with Patti and the rest of the family's pets. If I'm not mistaken, she moved because she finally retired. If I'm remembering that right, I think she was only down there because she was still employed. Chris brought Patti back to life in Sonichu 6 as Patti Chan, where she somehow gained the ability to walk and talk, and applied for welfare in Quickville, because Chris said that he would give her like money and she could go to any store with a card and it would instantly like let her get whatever the fuck she wanted to. So it's kind of like welfare. We already reviewed that comic. Much like the Flying Dutchman, who is cursed to roam the seven seas forever, Patti is cursed to wander Quickville, as she is not allowed to rest in peace. That's hilarious. There is not a single known picture of Patti indoors, suggests that she was just left in her pen in the backyard at all time. According to Chris, her wood and plastic doghouse weighed between 5 and 10 tons. While a normal person might say something like that, figuratively, to represent the emotional weight that it would take to move the home of a deceased pet for the last time, Chris acts as though he honestly believes that it weighs that much. And this is shit that he talked about with Casey's father. He told him that it weighed 5 to 10 tons and that he was strong because he could do that. He was bragging about it almost in a way and trying to compare it to that guy losing his friends on the battlefield. He is a fake person and he didn't actually lose people, but still, he tried to compare losing real life people to a dog. Okay, he got a lot of shit for it. When confronted about his insensitivity, or when someone tries to point out that he never experienced any substantial hardships, Chris is always quick to point out that he experienced the loss of Patti. He even mentions Patti's death over the death of his Aunt Karina, who gave him Patti in the first place, which is pretty fucked up. It seems like you should be more attached to the aunt than the dog. Chris seems to only mention his aunt as an afterthought when the comparison between someone losing a close family member and Chris losing his dog is scoffed at. It is entirely possible that Patti was the only life form to ever love Chris out of anything other than obligation. No, some of the cats did. We read that the other week. Patti was also probably the only acquaintance with which Chris has ever had very much in common. Not because they shared a mystical bond between man and beast brought about through wondrous, unexplained mysteries of autism, but because they were both animals, driven by brute instinct with no level of higher comprehension whatsoever. According to a video from January 2010, Patti now feasts on human souls. While this may seem to be at odds with the canon of the Sonichu comics, it makes perfect sense if you consider the distinct possibility that Quickville is hell. Now that is true, you could look at it that way, or you could say Quickville is another dimension, and she is an interdimensional monster that can travel between one plane of existence to another and will eat your soul without you ever noticing. That's a possibility too. This gets really fucked up. Eulogy for Patti, as written by Chris. Patti Chandler, March 17, 1988 to June 27, 2006. Eulogy written by Kristen Weston Chandler, June 27, 2006. My family, furry friends, anyone else present, we are gathered here today to pay our last respects and wishes to our dearly beloved Beagle Spitz, Patti, who has departed from our world here on earth to a doggy heaven where she'll eat your soul, where she will be happier, because she will run free and play along with the other dogs who are already having fun up there. And she will often look down upon her beloved family, me, Kristen Chandler, my mother, Barbara Chandler, and my father, Robert, who is now up there with her, and the cats who are also up there with her, who have grown fond of Patti. I will always remember Patti for all the lovely memories she has shared with me from when I picked her up out of the litter from my Aunt Karina's house in Red Oak, Virginia, the many walks I have shared with her around the neighborhood, as well as the neighborhood in Newberry Town subdivision. Who fucking cares about that? You don't have to be that precise, Chris. The time I watched my old best friend Sarah Hammer take Patti by her front paws and dance a bit. The times I watched her stand on her hind legs and then rewarded her with a biscuit bone. The time that I took my camera to her pen and took this lovely picture of her and me. And I made a big deal how she'll be like a movie dog star. I think he means movie star dog. That seems improper the way he phrased it. The times I've just sat there with her in the yard and petted her head. I've always given her a bally scratch, which is a word Chris made up, where I stroke her head with all 5 fingers, like as if I was gently squeezing a rubber ball. The many times I fed her a can of dog food and a cup of dry food and refilled her bucket with fresh water so she can drink it and wash her face. There was also the one time I saw her resting on top of her doghouse, not on her back like Snoopy. He had to clarify it, she's not Snoopy. I've often wondered why, between both of her ears, why one was bent and the other was straight up like an arrowhead. That's a weird thing to mention. When Patti was brought to the vet on that fateful day, I was distraught with fright and concern for her health. I stayed with her during her final moments, with a hand on her head and a tear in my eye. When my mother was brought the paper that gave the doctor permission to send her on her way, I didn't want her to be the one to sign it. I raised Patti since she was 6-week-old pup, and I wanted to take the strain for signing the one-way ticket. It was hard for me, but it was for the best, so I signed the paper, with a crying Sonichu face saying, "We love you, Patti." After that, I gave her my final pets: hug, hand-to-paw hold, eye contact, ear rub, cheek-to-fur rub, and I sadly waved her for the final time and said, "Goodbye, Patti. I love you." As I stood outside, I heard Patty's last bark saying, "I will always love you, Chris. Thank you." But we must move on with our lives, with our beloved Lucky Mutt in our hearts and in our memories. So Patti, may your dog house and surrounding flowers forever memorialize your blessed heart, your barks at the stars and strangers, and your loyal love that you have blessed upon me and my family and friends. Bark on and rest in peace, our beloved Lucky Patti. Now, I would say that's a really sweet thing, and it almost makes me tear up a bit, but knowing that he would constantly bring her up to spite people, knowing that he would use her like she was gonna eat his soul like some type of monster, knowing who Chris is, I can't really feel that bad. I just can't. Take note that Chris actually shoehorned Sonichu into his dog's eulogy, and I'm not shocked. Current activity. Not content with an eternity of biscuit bones and bally scratches and doggy heaven, Patti has appeared to have taken time out of being dead to assure her former master of her peaceful afterlife in a dream. Chris has also averred that her vengeful spirit will seek out Alec Benson Leary and his cohorts for the alleged besmirching her memory and proceed to, in no particular order, give them nightmares, consume their souls, and kill them. Yet, as always, Chris still thinks of himself as a kind-hearted Christian individual. Patti's physical remains rest underneath her 10-ton doghouse in the Chandler's backyard. The notion of examining and desecrating her bones has become a popular running joke among trolls and weens, to the point that Chris, in a September 2010 YouTube video, took the time to fiercely deny any rumors that the corpse of his dog was anywhere except where he had buried it. Ironically, in a video created about a year after that one, Chris pretended, while dressed up as a hooker, probably because of trolls, to dig up Patti and repurpose her as a coat. It seems that not only is Patti an unholy weapon of soul-sucking revenge, but a snugly warm coat too. The doghouse still stands as of April 2015, and I think it still stands today too. And these are some pics of Patti. She was actually a pretty cute looking dog. And as sad as most of Chris's pet stories go, at least Patti lived a good long life and died happy. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, hit the like button. If you really like it, share it. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. Bye guys. Before the credits roll, I thought I'd take a second to talk to you guys about my Patreon. If you want to help keep the channel going and prevent it from going under when YouTube decides to randomly demonetize my videos, or when a nutcase like GamerGuy decides to strike my channel making me lose money off of my streams, you can go back my Patreon. Benefits include being a producer, which means you get in all the credits at the end of the videos. You can recommend quickie articles, which means that articles you want covered are more likely to happen sooner. You can request me to review a comic book of your choice, or you can even come on to be a guest reader for the fanfiction series. My Patreon is linked in the description below, and it's also in the About section on my YouTube. Hope to see you guys there.